again, you go to File, New Project, or if you are already in the web perspective, then it is easier. It gives you web-only projects. So if you are in a DDS design or any other perspective, it gives you only limited options. But when it knows your perspective, you can then simply go to File, New Web Project. Then we will choose from this list Simple, and then you give your project a name, and then you hit Finish. So it creates your web project right here.
I only have a project, I don't have a navigator on mine. How do I get to the navigator?
Oh, you click on Window, Show View, and if the navigator doesn't show in this list, you go to Other, and it will show in the General section. Okay, so far so good. Okay, and let me create a new File, New Web Project. I'm going to call this one JSP Week 1 Friday. Now usually what we should do is, from here, instead of hitting Finish, I should click Next to make sure what server I have. We were able to run it to see that the page goes through. Now let's look into the source of this page and see how different technologies can run simultaneously on this page. So this is HTML. This is JavaScript. And when you work with JSP, we use the scriptlets. The scriptlets start out and they end with this symbol. And instead of saying, like in Java, you say system.out.println, here you say out.println, and then you say the message. Oh, reach me in your break or after class.
Okay.
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 So this is JSP, this is JavaScript, and this is HTML. There are three different statements coming from three different sources. Now, unlike Java, where you throw the output onto the console of an application, you say system.out.println. But since this is running on a web server, and through the web server it goes to the client, you will going to say out.println. That means whatever response object server uses, use that response object to send it back to the client. So now when you try to run this, run on server, this will show you three different lines of output. However, there is no way for you to tell which output is coming through what source. And even if you right click and click on view page source, view source, it gives you everything that was written in client side, and whatever was done in the server side is also appearing in the same way as you would see your HTML code. So what web server does, it actually converts everything that is server side into an equivalent client side HTML. So later on in the examples that we will going to do next, when we run a loop, the loop may generate 100 lines, but you're only going to write 2 lines of code. But when the output will be shown in the HTML side, it'll show you 100 lines of code. Because each iteration has to be converted to an equivalent HTML code, because the client browser doesn't understand JSP. Okay? So that is the benefit of using scriptlets, that anything that's in the scriptlets is the only thing that needs to be converted. The rest will go as it is. Now the JSP page is always converted to an equivalent servlet before it gets processed. So all JSP pages are converted to servlet, and once they are successfully converted, an instance of them runs in the memory of the server. So anytime you run your JSP page the first time, it is the slowest. Once it gets converted to its servlet equivalent and runs inside the memory of a web server, then it's very fast after that. So in this example, we just simply looked at how a JSP page can have different technologies running at the same time. JavaScript, HTML, and JSP. Now let's start writing some code in JSP. So anything that you learn in Java, except for JavaFX, will still carry over. You can't do multi-threading because that's controlled by the server. You can do Java network programming because that's controlled through the server. Okay? But you can do JDBC and all the programming constructs. Everything else follows over. Okay? Now, so if I want to declare an object of type string, I can very well say string fname equals to, and I can say the name of the person. So here I'm declaring two strings, just like I would do in Java. And we will use the same concatenation operator as we used in Java. The only difference you will now notice that the println doesn't guarantee a new line in a web browser. So therefore you have to use BR if you want a new line. So for all formatting purposes, you have to use CSS and HTML. So now I would like you to run this, and in order for you to run it, all you can do is switch over to the tab that you had running before and just hit the refresh button, and it will just simply refresh the output. Yeah, of course, you have to make sure you save the changes before you refresh it, right? Also, while the web server is running, you can copy the URL and paste it in a local web browser to run it in a local web browser, because again, this uses Internet Explorer version 9 or 10, something like that, so it has all the updates for CSS. So, or HTML5. It doesn't support HTML5 fully either because it's an old browser. So you would want to test it in a Chrome or any of the outside browsers. The reason RDI snaps to an Internet Explorer because RDI runs native to Windows, and you can't be assured of the fact what browser Windows user has, because some people have Chrome, some people don't have Chrome. Some people have Firefox, some people don't. So, but Internet Explorer is the best choice because you will always have a Windows operating system with Internet Explorer if you had any of the older ones up till 7 or 8. So that's why they default to Internet Explorer. But if you install this on Windows 10, it will default to Edge.
So I have it also on my Mac. I'm assuming this defaults to Safari then?
Is it running native on Mac or is it running on a Windows and Mac?
I'm using, right now I'm using the Verizon, but I do have RDI on my Mac. That runs native on my Mac.
Oh, okay. You may have to check. I think, yeah. Okay. So now let's go back to this code, and now we will introduce an integer variable and we're going to be printed the same way as any of the other variables. And if you want the value to be incremented by 1, you could use the same, plus plus operator, pre-increment, post-increment. Similarly, you could increment by more than 1 by using this approach. Or we also have an alternate approach of compound operator, where you can, if the same variable gets to repeat on both sides of equals, then you can use plus equals to, so that compound also works. So within the 9 lines of code, the person grew by 21 years.
I have a question. If you make a syntax error in that, will it actually show an RDI?
So for example, if I miss a semicolon here,
Yeah.
and notice it does a red line there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it will follow the syntax of JSP within the scriptlets. So again, you refresh your output, and it will now going to show you age 20, then 21, then 31, then 41. Very similarly, you can declare variables of character type. Now, can you guess what it will going to do now? And I'm not sure if the outline is open for you here. Notice in the outline, it builds a whole outline of the page. And it shows you that in the body, you have a script, you have a JSP scriptlet. And it shows you the whole structure of the page. And also it shows you that there is a doc type and there is a JSP directive. What is a JSP directive? If you scroll up to the top of the page, you will see that right after the doc type HTML, there is this different looking tag with a percent and an @ symbol. That is called JSP directive. We're going to learn about at least a couple directives today. And this directive tells the web server that there is some JSP on the page. So that's why it says page language equals Java. And that's how he knows that in the scriptlet to test your code by the syntax of Java. Even though there is no other language that it supports, but still requires a language parameter. So now when you save the changes and refresh your output, you will now see that CH is 60.